Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And hello everyone. Today we are going to learn about kingdom fungi. Okay, based on the diagram given on this slide, let's say this is A, B, and C. Which of these organisms would you say is a fungus? Actually, all of them are fungi. So let's learn more about this organism. There is three learning outcomes for kingdom fungi. First, state the unique characteristics of fungi. Second, state the classification of fungi phyla based on the spore-bearing structure. And last, state the importance of fungi. Fungi are grouped into their own kingdom. This means that they are not animal, not plants, and also not bacteria. Fungi is not bacteria because it has complex eukaryotic cells like animal and plants. Actually, fungi were once classified in the plant kingdom. Why? Like plants, fungi have cell wall, have vacuole, and also sessile. Means that cannot move. However, in 1969, a systematic scientist named R.H. Whittaker began to question this classification, and he proposed that fungi be assigned to a separate kingdom called kingdom fungi. Okay, why R.H. Whittaker separate fungi from kingdom plantae? Unlike plants, fungal cell wall do not contain cellulose, but the cell wall of the fungi is made up by chitin, and the function of the fungi is also very different from the plants, which is saprophytic by absorption. Now we are going to discuss the unique characteristic of kingdom fungi. Mostly, fungi are multicellular eukaryotes, but except for the simplest fungi, collies, which are unicellular. Eukaryotes means their cell contain membrane enclosed nuclei and other membrane organelles. The morphology of multicellular forming enhances their ability to grow and absorb nutrients. Body consists of a long branch, thread-like filament called hyphae. As hyphae grow, they will form a tangled mass or network called mycelium. Okay, so you can refer the diagram shown here. On the top diagram, show the sexual structure or reproductive structure that produce spores. On the left diagram, shows the structure of hyphae that form mycelium and give the body structure to the mushroom, while the bottom right diagram shows a mycelium growing on the fallen conifer needles. Fungi is non-photosynthetic organism because there is no chlorophyll. Next, fungi have cell wall that's strengthened by chitin, and this chitin is strong and flexible polysaccharide. Next, energy reserve for kingdom fungi is glycogen. Okay, fungus is non-motile organism. Means that they cannot run, swim, or fly in search of food or mate. But the mycelium will make up for it by swiftly extending the tips of its hyphae into new territory. Like animals, fungi are heterotrophs. Means that they cannot make their own food as plants and algae can, but unlike animals, fungi do not ingest their food. Okay, not eat their food. Instead, they digest their food while it is still in the environment by secreting the powerful hydrolytic called exoenzyme into their surrounding. These exoenzymes will break down complex molecule to small organic compound that the fungi can absorb into their bodies and use. Among the fungi, some species are live as decomposers that also called saprops. Okay, the saprobic fungi will break down and absorb nutrients from non-living organic material. So from non-living organic material such as fallen logs, fallen leaves, animal corpse, and the waste of the living organism. Some fungi are parasitic fungi which absorb nutrients from living hosts. Some are pathogenic that cause disease in plants, and some will cause human disease such as ringworm, athlete's foot, and yeast infection. Some fungi shows mutualistic relationship with other organisms such as lichen that shows symbiotic relationship between fungi with algae or cyanobacteria, okay, which is blue-green algae. Okay, as the diagram, the bottom diagram shown the lichen that presents on the surface of rock. Okay, sometimes the lichen also present on the surface of the rotting logs and trees. Okay, so function of the algae to provide carbon compound to the fungi, while the cyanobacteria fix nitrogen and provide organic nitrogen compound to fungi, while the fungi function to provide photosynthetic partners with a suitable environment for growth. Okay, top diagram shows the mutualistic relationship between the fungi, hyphae, and the algal cells. Reproduction for kingdom fungi is by produce the spores. So the fungi propagate themselves by producing vast numbers of spores, either asexually or sexually. So spores can be carried long distances by wind or water, and if they land in a moist place where there is food, they germinate and producing new mycelia. Now we are going to discuss about unique characteristic of the fungi, which is hyphae and mycelium. So this hyphae is filamentous body plant. okay, that shows long branch and thread-like that function to absorb nutrient, and this hyphae will form a mass that called mycelium. So hyphae is a filamentous body and mycelium is a network of hyphae that form a mass. There's two types of hyphae. First is choanocytic and second is septate. What is the differences between these two hyphae? In most fungi, the hyphae are divided into cells by cross walls or septa, singular called septum. Septa generally have pores large enough to allow ribosomes, mitochondria, and even nuclei to flow from cell to cell. But some fungi lack of septa known as choanocytic, means that there is no septate presence, okay, as you can see here. This organism consists of the continuous cytoplasmic mass containing hundreds of thousands of nuclei. The choanocytic condition results from the repeated division of nuclei without cytoplasmic division. Next is classification of kingdom fungi. Based on the types of spore-bearing structure, so kingdom fungi is divided into three phyla. First is phylum Zygomycota, second is phylum Ascomycota, and third is phylum Basidiomycota. Example for phylum Zygomycota is Rhizopus species. Example for phylum Ascomycota is Penicillium species. An example for phylum Basidiomycota is Agaricus species. Phylum Zygomycota for zygote fungi. Phylum Ascomycota for sac fungi. And phylum for Basidiomycota for club fungi. This slide we are going to discuss about differences in sexual reproductive structure of kingdom fungi. First is phylum Zygomycota, that known as zygote fungi. Fungi in phylum Zygomycota, also known as zygomycetes. The black-bread mole called Rhizopus stolonifer is commonly used as an example of this phylum. The name of Zygomycota comes from the spore-bearing structure that form in sexual reproduction called zygosporangium. Okay, this is zygosporangium. Okay, that form during plasmogamy process. This zygosporangium develops a rough, thick wall coating that can resist dry environment and other harsh conditions for months. When conditions are favorable, then karyogamy occurs. Then it will form zygote, and then the spores that form inside of this zygosporangium known as zygospores. Second phylum in kingdom fungi known as Ascomycota, that known as sac fungi. The fungi in this group known as Ascomycetes. Ascomycota name is derived from the spore-bearing structure that form during sexual reproduction called asci or singular called ascus. and the spores that form inside of these ascus is called ascospores. Example for Ascomycota is Penicillium species. Okay, as we can see here, this is Penicillium notatum that presents on this rotten orange, and under the microscope, so we can see the presence of the finger-like sac that called ascus. Okay, and the last phylum for this kingdom is called Basidiomycota, that known as club fungi. The name of this phylum derived from the spore-bearing structure that presents inside of the gills called basidium, and the spores produced called basidiospores. And common example of phylum Basidiomycota is mushroom. Okay, now we are going to discuss the importance of fungi. Okay, there is 5 importance of fungi according to our syllabus. First, the fungi act as a decomposer. Okay, how the fungi act as a decomposer? Okay, as you know, most of the fungi are saprotroph. So this saprotroph fungi will release the hydrolytic enzyme outside their bodies to digest the dead organism first. Then after that, it will directly absorb the nutrient into their bodies. Example of the dead organism is animal corpse, fallen tree or fallen leaves. Okay. And usually these fungi together with the bacteria involved in decompose the dead organism to recycle the chemical element in ecosystem. Okay, so that's why it will recycle or return the dead material to the soil in a form in which it can be reused. Okay, without fungi, these recycling activities would be seriously reduced. Second, some fungi form symbiotic relationship. Example is lichen. Okay, lichen is a symbiotic relationship between the fungi with the algae. So as this diagram shown, the lichen grow on the bark tree. So this relationship will give benefit to both organisms, either fungi and or algae. Third importance of fungi is act as a pathogen. Okay, this fungi will cause many diseases such as ringworm or kurap. This disease is a rash caused by a fungal infection and usually red color, itchy and circular rash with clearer skin in the middle. So ringworm cat is named because of its appearance, okay, but there is no worm is involved. second disease that caused by the fungal infection is called athlete's foot. Okay, because of the fungus grows on the feet. It is called athlete foot because it affects people whose feet learn to be damp and sweaty, which is often the case with athletes. But anyone can get this infection. And third disease that caused by fungus infection is called candidiasis. This candidiasis may infect to the mouth, throat, or vagina. That give white appearance on the surface of the infected area. Okay, another example is panau lah. Number 4, fungi involved in commercial importance in food production. Example, in production of fermented food. Example, fermented food is tempe, tapai, production of wine, cheese, yogurt. Okay, so this example of fungi that involve in production of this commercial food is yeast. Okay, yeast. Okay, so yeast will produce ethanol and carbon dioxide from sugar. Example is glucose through fermentation process. Okay, proses penyampaian lah, fermentation. Or the yeast involved in baking of bread or donut. Okay, so during this fermentation, this CO2 that released out is an agent that causes bread to rise. And last, the fungi involved in pharmaceutical, okay, which is this fungi that called Penicillium notatum is used to produce the antibiotic penicillin. Okay, these penicillin antibiotics will inhibit the growth of bacteria.